Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Pastor Mike Darnell.
And this is Pastor Ghilaine Darnell.
And welcome to our podcast. We pastor Excel Church in the East Cobb, Marietta area. And today we are going to be talking about how to start something new or how to start over. So if you are looking at the front of the year, like most people, you're looking to start something new or start over. Maybe you've messed up some things, starting over, starting something new. We are going to tell you several key things you need to do in order to do that successfully. So as me and my wife get ready to start talking to you about these things, I want you to know that we have done these things. We started a brand new church, for example. We started a lot of things, but starting a church was one of the hardest things. But the church is now 10 years old. If you don't know who we are, that's okay. Maybe God is bringing us together at this moment for us to meet. But we do want to tell you that you're going to need a spiritual community. Let the church become something that is part of your life in a bigger way, because you're going to need, in order to get your life on track for what God has put you on this earth to do. I don't care if you're a younger person, or if you're in somewhere in the middle, or if you're in the place of, I'm a little bit more seasoned, as folks say sometimes. It doesn't matter. Everybody is always on this new beginning mindset, right? So I want you to understand that. We're going to talk to you about some points today. We've been there, we've done that, we know what it's like, and also we still go through it even ourselves. There's always a place where it's time to improve, get to the next level, start over, fix a mess, fix some drama going on in your life, all right? Mm-hmm. So this is going to be really good. I'm excited about it, Pastor.
Oh, yeah. Ghilaine. I'm excited, too. There's always something, like you said, there's always something to start.
Yes.
There's always mess to fix, so let's get to it.
So everybody is tired of the way life is, and that's why you would be starting something new.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the reason you'd be starting over again. That's the reason maybe something failed that you tried, and now it's time to start again. Maybe a relationship failed. Maybe a business attempt failed.
Maybe that job you had, that failed. You thought that was the job and it failed,
Yes. And the desire to start something new, it's going to keep coming back in your life. It's going to keep popping up, because let me tell you where that desire, first and foremost, where does it even come from? Or why do you even feel that way? Don't you just wish sometimes you could just I know accomplishing something big is really cool and it's amazing, but sometimes as you get older especially, you feel like, I wish I could just put these desires to bed and just be happy with one thing, because the desire keeps dragging me into new things, But here's the thing, that desire is coming from God. Maybe you don't have the correct picture. Maybe you want to start something that in a sense is not godly, okay, or something. But what I'm saying is the desire to go to a new level, that is from God. Maybe not the exact thing you want to do, but that will come into clear view also when you get this understanding. So first of all, you're born to bring heaven into the earth. So heaven is filled with potential. Heaven is filled with the correct picture of your life. Heaven is filled with your recovery. Heaven is full of what God has planned for you. That is built into you when you hit the earth. I mean, you have this capacity to receive a vision from heaven. And because God is still knocking on that door of your heart, he's not just knocking on it to say, let me in to get you out of here and get you to heaven. Because a lot of people say this prayer to go to heaven, but they don't really allow God to do what he wants to do with them while they are on earth. Right?
Yeah.
So that thing is coming from God, and you have to address it,
right,
because it will haunt you. It will keep you up at night.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where the saying came from. Somebody said dreams are not what happens when you go to sleep, but they're what keeps you from going to sleep.
Yes.
In a sense, that can be true. You do need your sleep, but this is where it's coming from. So we're going to deal with some of those things. Number one, starting over or starting something new. What are some of the biggest challenges? You're going to the next level. One is you're going to have to deal with the you're going to have to deal with leaving the familiar past. The familiar past, you're going to have to leave it. And when you leave the familiar past, there's going to be a mourning.
For sure. I would say like when we just talking about the church, when we first started the church, we came from a great, amazing church.
Yes.
And leaving that familiarity, leaving that place where you know everybody, I get up, I go here, I drive here, I meet these people, this is my pastor. Just leaving that whole community, you do grieve it. Leaving anything that you've become familiar with, you built your whole life around or whatever. You're going to mourn. You're going to have those,
That's
feelings.
part of the process.
So, yeah.
So you have to prepare yourself. You're excited about the possibility of this next relationship. You're excited about the possibility of this next platform, this next business opportunity, this next, level with your family or yourself, or you're excited even within yourself. I mean, that's the biggest one. I'm excited about the new life filled with joy instead of all of this anxiety or grief.
Right.
Well, to get to the life of joy, you have already programmed yourself to live in a familiar state of grief.
Right.
And people don't understand that when you try to exit that grief or that worry that you have utilized when you maybe were not trusting God the way we should have been, you've built this pattern inside of your subconscious mind, and that program, that subconscious program, it's like a computer program. It's running whether you want it to or not, and it's whether you are aware of it or not.
Right. It was the same thing. Even if when you make that decision, it's the new year, I'm going to hit the gym, right? And I'm going to lose weight or whatever. But you have a certain pattern of how you eat, how you go about your day, and leaving that to start a healthier habit or whatever. Yeah. Adding a gym.
I'm going to the gym in the morning instead of, going straight
sleeping
to work or
whatever,
sleeping in, whatever you do. Right now you're adding this stop. So while it's exciting to start that first day, you're also having to leave at the same time the schedule that you had. And it gets more difficult, right? Sometimes it's easy to walk away, from something that you didn't like. Right. But you were familiar with it, and that's the problem. Exactly. People don't understand. We can hate something, but it's the human condition to always want what is familiar.
It's the lady going back to the same bad relationship, the same guy. She know he's not good for her, but I'm familiar with this kind of behavior. I'm familiar with this type of treatment. I'm familiar with him, so she doesn't.
And she doesn't know why she would go back, or right. And it's because the reason why you don't know why in your mind, you can't justify it. It's because what we are familiar with is not in our conscious mind. It's in our subconscious mind. Subconscious means it's below your mind, meaning you're not aware of it anymore. I'm not conscious of how to walk. That's subconscious programming now. I learned that when I was a child. So I don't have to think about how to walk. My body just does it. Right? It's built in. My body doesn't have to relearn walking every morning because it's a program now. It can function on command. I can just do it. I don't know how to explain to you to walk. Right? I can't explain, I can just say, listen, walking is this. You just walk. Right? You can't explain how to walk. I mean, one foot in front of the other. I mean, your muscles do this, that. I mean, who knows, right? That doesn't help a person learn to walk. They learn to walk by walking. Right? You just do it because it's something built in you that you have the capacity for it, and you just have to do it. And so these things that you are doing in life, you've built that personality, you have built that behavior, and you got to realize that the things that you are going through every single day, these familiar schedules, familiar emotional state, like what's familiar to you is to wake up feeling discontent. Right? To wake up feeling not enough. To wake up feeling, I wish things were better. To wake up feeling far away from your goal. far away from your breakthrough, right? You wake up every day. So what happens is, if every day you wake up and that's how you felt and that's how you feel, over time, that becomes the subconscious condition of your personality. And now your body thinks that that is not only the right thing, it thinks that's what you wanted it to produce. Your body thinks, you wanted me to build this defeated personality. You wanted me to do that, so I built this because you gave me the indications by the way you get up, the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you speak. So I built this personality because, you know, you watch that type of programming, you watch it on YouTube, everything you feed into it, and then all of a sudden it's subconscious. Now it's permanent and it's operating all the time. Well, I shouldn't say it's permanent. I should say it's automatic.
But isn't that amazing? What you're saying is that we built it ourselves.
Yes.
That it's not like something or somebody out there who put this in us, but most of it is us, ourselves, building something like that. So what is good, though, is that because we built it, we can also tear it down.
That's right.
You know, so that's really cool. Keep going. That's good.
She just wants me to talk now.
That's good, though. You know, I mean, you don't really think about it. Like you built that thing. You developed those behavior, and now it's playing out for you.
Right. Like when it comes to the biggest topics in life, relationships, money, career, emotional things, right? Our state of being, whatever you are programmed to operate like is already in you for the most part by the age of 7. So psychologists say, and brain doctors say, and all of those who do all these research studies say that from the ages 0 to 7, a child is not, they don't have any programs in them. They come blank, right? They come like a blank slate. And then from the time they're in the womb, and it starts in the womb, they can hear the environment. The child can hear everything that's going on. And it's like a tape recorder. Yeah. It's just intaking, no filter, no protection of what it's becoming. And so it really, really relies on those who are the parents or the caretakers to make sure that the programming is conducive to what God is going to do in that person's life later on. So by the time they're 7, they have all of their basic programming already in place, who they kind of think they are. In other words, you'll still be programming as you get older, but a foundation is already there. Okay, so they already they already know the program to worry about money, worry about bills, because they heard you say it.
Right.
They already know what the world has put in them. What is the biggest concerns in the world? Well, it's political problems and it's racial problems and it's this. Where did they get all of that? So from 0 to 7, you don't even know, because they're not really repeating it back to you in an articulate way that much. Occasionally you hear them say something you say, but it's not like, you know, they don't understand what they're saying. But it's recorded, okay? So it's becoming familiar. It's becoming familiar to feel like there's lack, right, because they heard you talk about bills, right? Oh, are the bills going to get paid? And we don't have enough money for that. Put that back. Yep. We don't have enough money. You go into the grocery store, put that back, right? You have to figure out other ways to say things that does not program lack into a person. You can say to a person, I'm not going to buy you that, but don't say it because I don't have the money. We can't afford it. Okay, because that programs them to think that there's lack in the earth when there is not. That programs them to believe things that later on, when God is going to ask them to start something new, they're going to believe in lack. And even if
how do I get this? I want to do this new thing, but I've always heard, you know, there's not enough. So how do I even start? I don't have enough. I don't know where do I even get?
Well, they won't even, sometimes they won't even say it. It's a program. So their behavior will not take them there. Right. They won't go for it. Right? Like when you have the program that there's abundance, you go for things not even knowing where the resources will come from, because you don't believe that there is a lack. You believe it's going to happen for you. You believe God's going to make it happen. So it's important that you don't let that familiar program destroy you. And you have to actually decode those lies. Now as an adult, you're probably looking like, why do I keep choosing this type of job? I always think it's funny how people complain about their job. And I don't suggest you ever quit your job until you have a new one. Okay. But you are in control of that. Yeah. Why would you not look for a better job when you know the one you have is not good? Why would you sit there and be mad at the supervisor when you are in complete control of where you work? But we don't have any options. But somebody's not going to hire me. I'm not good enough. I don't have the degree. I don't have. But see, you know what that's coming from? That's definitely not coming from the God in you.
Right.
That is definitely not something God put in you. Okay. And you don't realize that you think that in life there's these haves and have-nots, and I mean, really what you need to understand is when God says you can do all things through Christ who gives you the strength to do it, he's not telling you unless society says you can't. Mm-hmm. Right? He's asking you to believe his programming, his understanding of what he has and what he put in you. But we have this familiar yet unknown program in us. We don't know why we keep going back to that job or back to that relationship or back to that type of relationship. We always get the same type of person. So you get the same type of man every time, or the same type of woman. You know why? Because more than likely, you grew up in a household where your father was that way.
Yeah. Familiar.
Exactly.
Yep.
My point. How do you start something new? You're going to have to break the familiar. I know women that would prefer a man that is this type of way or that type of way over another way simply because it's familiar. Mm-hmm. At least I know, but see, again, in your mind, you're like, how do I keep ending up with this type of, you can't understand why well, that's just what I'm attracted to, girl. Right. Mm-hmm. Girl, that's just what I'm attracted to. I like this type of man. Mm-hmm. Or that's just what I'm attracted to. How do I keep ending up with this? Right. The guys are almost the same, right?
Just a different name.
Same spirit, same attitude, just a different set of clothes and a different name. Mm-hmm. But why is that? Familiar. My dad was like that. Yeah. My last marriage for 10, 15 years, it was like that. Mm-hmm. And you don't even know. That's the funny thing about the familiar. The familiar is not what you want. It's what you are familiar with. Yes. Comfort. All right. Comfort is the most addictive force on the planet.
I believe that.
More than drugs.
Yes.
More than narcotics. Mm-hmm. More than anything. Comfort. The human condition is to find comfort. Everything to go back to the past. Mm-hmm. Every day, your mind, your body wants to take you to the most familiar place it can find. That's why even when I travel the world, I travel a lot for ministry and whatever. My favorite place to be, I don't care if I'm in, any country in the world is beautiful. And I enjoy it, and I'm there, and I'm doing something that I really, really enjoy. Getting back home to my family, to my own bed, mm-hmm. instead of a hotel bed.
Yeah.
Right? Because we like a nice hotel. You're like, oh, this is fun.
For a second. Yep. And then you're like, I can't wait to get to my own bed.
But when you get home to your bed, mm-hmm. and you pull that the pillow, the one you sleep with every day, mm-hmm. and the cover that you sleep with every day, and hopefully the person you sleep with every day, your husband or wife, hopefully, whatever it is, it feels like home. And that's what humans want. They want to go home. Mm-hmm. What feels like home to you? We want to go home, because home is not just where you grew up. It's whatever's familiar.
So you're saying you think it's just
your base of life, home.
A lot of times we won't break out of the familiar place because we like to be comfortable, and it's too hard to try something new, mm-hmm. to try something different, mm-hmm. right? So
that breaking mm-hmm. the familiar and going into the unfamiliar.
Yeah, it's just
too
very
hard.
Mm-hmm. Because you got to taste
it.
You got to see, you got to taste it, or you got to try it, or you got to step out into something that's uncomfortable, meet somebody new.
Right. But it's also why you go back and forth, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, it's not hard to start it, it's hard to keep it. Mm-hmm. Because you start something new, you're like, okay, I did it.
Yeah.
I went out on a date with a new type of person. Mm-hmm. I went to the gym. I started the business. I got my website domain name. I got the bank account started, whatever, right? But then all of a sudden, it's, one little piece of pressure comes and hits that, right? It's raining today. I'm not going to the gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going. I mean, you get a phone call. I'm not going. The guy you just met, the girl you just met, all of a sudden you see one little flaw and you're like, I'm not going to continue this.
That takes me like when back in my dating days, what I hated about dating was
that you was not with me. That was why.
But like trying
I had to rescue her.
But like stop, like trying to get to know somebody, like, what they liked and what they didn't like. That was always annoying to me. You know what I mean? Like, so, but.
Because you don't think it's real.
Yeah, it's like trying to get like, past that first place, like that.
Everybody's putting their best foot forward.
Right.
Everybody's doing,
And like really trying to get to know the real person behind that glass, trying to really, that was always like the hardest part for me. It's like, like I want to break this part. Let's just get to know, is this really who you are? And then I hated that part. I didn't like getting to, even though I love people, I love hanging out, but when you got to, this is somebody that potentially could be the one or something, like trying to figure out, are they really real? Is this really who you are? Like trying to get to know people. So that can be hard. So you end up with like, it's easy to fall back to just go back to the person you already know. Cause I already know what you like. I already know where you like to go eat. I already know what you like to do, So you can really see how human beings can just like, even when you go to a restaurant, a lot of times you just eat the same stuff. You go to a restaurant, you're like, you don't want to order something new because it's like, how's this going to taste? I don't know. I'm going to pay my money. I'm just going to eat what I like. I already know what this tastes like, or I already know how they serve me at this restaurant. So, trying to do something new can be uncomfortable and it can be hard, but it's something we have to do. We just have to do it. You have to break out and do something different, or you'll never get anything different. Even especially as a woman, women like security. And breaking out into doing something new requires that you maybe put security aside, because now you don't know, it's unfamiliar territory like we keep talking about, but your security is not really there because you're like, well, this could fail. Yeah. So you're like, I don't know if I should take this step because this has a potential to fail and not work, not work at all. So that security, that base, that especially for women, you're like, man, this is my security. I don't know if I want to, take a step and go out into something that may not work. What you got to say on that one? Because for me, I really like to be secure. I like my money to be secure. I like my relationship to be secure. I don't want to,
What is security though?
Familiar.
That's right.
Familiar. Just
it
knowing
ain't even
this
secure. It's familiar.
Familiar.
Right?
You're right.
In a sense, let me say it this way. It's not real security. What we call security is just familiar, right? We feel secure in the familiar because at least we know how to survive, right?
Yes.
Like I grew up really poor and thank God for kingdom, understanding where I don't have to live like that anymore. But you can get familiar with not having things, and then actually you learn the way to survive without having an abundance of things. You learn, and then you don't realize this about yourself, because I know I'm talking to somebody. You don't realize why, even though I want this new thing, why is it that I keep sabotaging myself? Or why do I keep sabotaging the future? Because the programs that we live on every day are designed to keep you out of a unknown future.
Yeah.
So the programs you put into your system are security programs, right? This is what makes me feel like I am myself.
Right.
And because that happened when you were a child and all the way up, through your adulthood, you've never addressed it. You didn't know you needed to. And you say, man, every time I try something, it fails. Every time I try something, it fails. Every time I try something, it fails. Well, it's not because God designed things that way. It's because the programs inside of us are self-sabotaging. They are, success is always a suicide mission. You know what I'm saying? Failure to succeed, I mean. Failure to succeed is always a suicide mission because nothing can stop your success because you're designed for it, right? You're designed to expand and grow and take territory. In the Bible, God gives us the idea of expanding his kingdom into the earth. Well, to take that territory that means the moment you settle in one land, it's time to conquer another one.
Yeah.
And that means unknown again. That means we discover something about ourselves again.
Well, what we do is we find a place, like we keep talking about. We find a place and we're like, oh, I'm good here now. I've discovered this about myself. I've discovered this part of God. Because we're supposed to continue to discover more and more about God and ourselves. But we find a place, you're like, I know this now, this much about, myself, about God. And so I'm going to stay right here. This is great. This is a great place for me. And you ever see people, you're like, there's so much more in you, but they won't go any further. They work the same job. They won't go back to school. They just keep doing the same thing because now there's this fear of the unknown. Like I was saying, the lack of security. You're like, wait, I'm not secure if I go out here, I'm not secure. So I'm just going to stay right here where I feel very secure, where I'm familiar with this. I'm familiar with this job. I'm familiar with, this place in my life. I don't want to take another step because I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So we need to break out of that fear of the unknown, that fear of self-discovery, and God discovery.
Yes.
Because it's like, I know this much about God. Like even with faith, you're like, well, I have faith, but you have faith for this level. And this is where we always stay. We don't want to, you don't want to increase your faith because you're like, I don't know about that. That's a lot of faith to try to believe for, things to believe for. So I know how to have faith for this level.
Yes.
And so we stay there.
Yes.
But we have to continue to increase.
Yes.
Continue to increase.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So hopefully this is helping you. Starting something new is a necessity. Starting something new, whether it's small things or big things, it doesn't mean it has to be something as big as a marriage or something.
Right.
In some cases you are looking for a new relationship, but maybe financially you're not in the right position. This is not like God has more for me. Why can't I? And you got these self-limiters, these self-beliefs that God didn't put on you. You can believe for more, you can do more, but you're going to have to start operating principles and ideas that maybe are not comfortable or familiar to you, but they are right.
Right.
They are right. And you have to operate higher than your emotional state. Mm-hmm. You got to function higher than you feel. In other words, you got to function as the person you want to be before you are that.
Yes.
You got to function as the person you want to be before you're familiar with it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
In other words, it's going to feel like it's a put on for a while.
Yes.
Isn't that right?
Yep. Then just put it on.
It's not fake it till you make it because it's not faking it because you are that.
Yes.
So that's why it's not faking it. Mm-hmm. It's just unfamiliar till you make it. Unfamiliar till you.
I like that.
It's not fake it till you make it. You are that, right? The Bible says to put on Christ, right? And so sometimes, it does feel a little bit like a put on, but actually you are made. The Bible says you are created in Christ for good works.
That's right.
Right? Like you're made out of that stuff.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like that's the good news. You can't fail, right? When you follow that. So, but it will feel like you're going to mourn past experiences. You're going to look back and say, man, even though I know I'm headed to a better place, I'm used to feeling like defeated, not worthy. I'm used to feeling like I don't deserve to receive such a raise, a breakthrough, such an elevated, state of emotion, such an elevated position in the company, I don't feel like I deserve it. And so you're going to have a funeral for all of that.
Yes.
And that the Bible tells you to crucify all of those old ideas from your flesh and self-sabotaging programs and ideas and thoughts and limitations. And all of that comes from the world. And when you step into the kingdom of God, you're going to be unfamiliar with that culture, the kingdom culture. You're going to be unfamiliar with that level of potential and power, right? I mean, just imagine you get a raise in a company and you have this massive budget to work with now. You have this massive amount of authority you have to work with now, right? Just imagine that was you. It takes a minute to feel because you want to relate to the people you used to work beside in the cubicle.
Yep.
Right? You're like, now just imagine you can put that scenario in any part of your life. now your relationship is amazing. You're going to be the girlfriends, and really girls do this more than guys, but the girlfriends you used to relate to, oh, girl, one day I'm believing for you, girl. You're going to find a man. I'm going to find a man. And you had those conversations, but now you've gotten there.
Right.
You made the changes within yourself to be compatible with someone on that level. Now that person showed up, right? Right. And then you made the connection, and now you had all these great conversations.
And that's what I was going to say, that you went there, and I was going to say that in this new place you're going, this, when you're trying to start something new, you're going to have to leave some people behind, some relationships that you were familiar with. They can't go with you. And it's not just because, I just want to, start something new, so leave them. But you need some new voices, people who have perhaps gone further. The place that you're trying to go, you need people who can speak into that new place you're trying to go. So you can't just keep hanging around the same people who have the same old ideas you had and think that you're going to get something new. You need to be around people who know something different, people who talk different, people who have different experiences in life, that they can look at you and say, hey, I've been there. Let me help you get there. So, and that is a funeral all by itself, is leaving old people. Sometimes it's family members, and it doesn't mean you cut them off, that you don't speak to them ever again, but it just means you put them in the right place. Yeah. You put them in the right circle. Okay, these people are not the ones who are going to speak into my future. I'm starting something new. Because sometimes people that know you very well, they're familiar with you. They don't know that thing that's inside, that's beating within you, that God placed in there, because you've never shown that to them. You've only shown them that limited you, because that's all the conversation y'all could have. That's the place that you were, but there's something deeper in you. And so they don't know that you. And all they're going to keep saying is, girl, I don't know if you can. Man, I don't know if you can, because they've never seen that part of you. So you got to go around some people that may not know that old you, but can see something different in you, and they can pull that out.
So we've hit a couple of these points. Another reason why it may be difficult to start over is because you don't know where to begin with all of the options that are out here in the world today. So there was a study done that I saw, and I'm having a hard time remembering exactly the details of it. So sometimes it's been so many years, but that I can't remember. But it basically said, if you want to confuse a massively intelligent species, if you want to confuse something so intelligent, how do you do it? And the answer was, give it options. Right? Give it options. I went to the store yesterday, and my wife said, get the kids some juice. And I went to the juice section, and, I'm looking for the best type of juice, right? So I'm thinking, all right, this should be easy. Let me grab some juice, right? Apple juice or something. So I'm just walking. There's so many juice choices. There's organic, this and that. There's this, no sugar added, no preserve, no this, no that. And I'm sitting there, and I said, you know what? I'm a smart man, but why can't I just pick a juice, right? And I don't even know if I picked a good one, okay? I tried, but there were so many choices, right? I'm intelligent, but there's too many choices. And you have to make a decision. The word decision is from the root word. It means to cut, right? An incision is when a surgeon, takes a knife and cuts you open. A decision, the prefix D means to move away. To deprogram something means to take the program away. To decide means to cut things away. So you're never going, unless you can get really clear about what it is God has sent you to do, who you are, there's some decisions you have to make. Healing, I feel the Holy Ghost right here. Healing is not multiple choice. Healing is a decision. Prosperity is a decision. A great state of emotions is a decision. Now, everything around you is going to fight your decision. Yes. But you are the one in charge of that knife. You have to cut some stuff off and cut off some options and just say to yourself, this is my decision. God works with your decisions. Okay, so if you can align what God has for you, and sometimes it's not extremely clear, but you got to start cutting away what you do know. Okay, that I know is not for me.
Yes.
That I know is not for me. What do I want? I mean, somebody asked me one time, they said, Pastor Mike, I don't make enough money. I mean, I know money is always something you hear brought up, but it's one of the biggest problems, right? Or I don't know who I want to be with, or I don't know who I am or something, right? But whatever the case might be, I would say, who do you want to be?
Right.
And in some cases, that's like, you can't make up who you want to be. You need to find out who God made you to be and want that, right? But in a sense, it can be like a compass to lead you towards connecting with God, right? So how much money do you want to make? And you'd be surprised, most of you out there, some people don't even know how much money they need.
It's true. It's so true.
Because how much money do you need? Well, I know, for example, when it comes to the biggest vision of this church here, I know roughly what it costs. I know ultimately for us to put the ministry in the world that we need to put into the world, it's a big number, but at least I know what the number is.
Right.
Right. I know roughly what the number, I know roughly how many people it's going to take. I know roughly how, right? So you have to decide what it is that you will need, and don't settle for anything else. And especially you have to line that up with what God has said is yours, the promises of God. So I know what God has given me. So I'm going to make a decision what to believe. It means I'm cutting off all the other ideas, and I'm not going to believe that. I don't care what it looks like or what it feels like. I am deciding to be a success.
Yes.
That means I'm deciding to follow God. I'm deciding to have this type of future. I'm deciding to make this much money. I have decided. The way that works out, we don't know. But once you make a decision that I'm not accepting this level of life anymore, then you would be surprised that decision means you're cutting stuff off. Mm-hmm. There's going to be friends that get cut off. There's going to be TV shows that get cut off. Your calendar, you're going to cut stuff off of that, right? Because you've made a decision. A decision is it's a pruning away of unnecessary stuff. That means I don't have the option to go back to the other thing. I decided already. That means I cut the other option off. If you go into your cabinet and you got 5 boxes of cereal, a decision to have one means you left off 4. So if you took those other 4 out of the cabinet, period, and threw them away, then your decision is now much clearer. Mm-hmm. You've decided. You open the cabinet, and now you're not even thinking. It's already decided. There it is. That's the one I'm going to have. That's how you have to decide your future. You can't have 5 possibilities. You got to say, no, I have decided I am going to make, and base it on the purpose that God gave you. Base it on that. This is what I know God has for me emotionally, physically, financially, relationally, whatever. And then make your decision to choose God's option. Mm-hmm. God's already got hey, say, look, believe me for this. Believe me for that. Trust me that this is the truth. And just decide and say, that's it. That's called faith. When I have agreed with God and made a decision, this is my life. I don't care what it looks like today. And then those decisions are going to take you, and God is going to supernaturally push you into your decision.
So decisions, what we're saying is, it cuts away all the emotional part of you.
Yes.
So it's not, I feel like doing this today, then I'll do it. I don't feel like doing this today, so I'm not good. No, decision takes all the emotions out of it. It's saying, this is what I'm going to do with my life, period. Regardless of how I feel, regardless of how others feel about it, this is what I know God wants, and this is what I'm going to do. So take all the emotions out, take all of that, extra, I feel like it, I don't feel like it, forget all that. This is what I want. This is what God has for me, and I'm going for it. And regardless of how I feel today about it, I am going for it, period. All right?
That's good. It's not an emotional option.
And also, decision and removing emotions out of your decision keeps you from being double-minded. Mm-hmm. Okay? And we know the Bible says a double-minded person gets nothing from God.
Yes.
Because only when God knows that you have made your decision, then he can move forward. Because if not, 1 minute you're doing this, he provides for you to do this, then you don't do it, so provision is not going to come if you're not even you haven't even decided if this is what you're going to do or not. So why would anyone sow into you? Why would anyone give into that project, that new thing that you're trying to do, if they're not even sure? You're not even sure if you're going to do it.
You look unstable.
Exactly. Absolutely. That's the word, unstable. So decision makes you a stable person, and everybody wants to be part of somebody who
That's
is
back to
stable.
security.
Exactly.
That's back to security. If you look secure, you're going to get more investment.
Stability.
People don't want to risk their valuable time, their valuable energy, effort, money into something that looks unstable.
Yes.
So even as a church plant, right, when we started 10 years ago, I knew that there were a lot of people that would have stayed with us early on. I'm glad the church is healthy and right, now. But in the beginning, it was hard to convince people because we were in a high school, and I understood that because I know people pull up and they go, "Is this stable?"
Right.
Maybe they don't say it that way.
Right.
But can my family, this thing looks like it's 1 week from closing.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I don't want to invest my emotions, get tied up with these people. Then I love it. Then it closes.
So stability attracts stability.
That's
So
right.
if you're an unstable person, you're going to,
100%.
if you are an unstable person, you're going to attract unstable people in your life. You're wondering, why do I keep attracting these same old unstable people? They don't know where they are financially.
That's one of the
They don't
things
know
that'll do
where
that.
they're going in life. And because if you're unstable, you're going to keep attracting unstable people. If the thing you're trying to
You
do,
reproduce it.
exactly.
You get what you are.
Exactly. If you're double-minded, you're shifty, you're here 1 week, you're there next week, this church, this job, that job, this relationship, that relationship, you're going to keep attracting people who are the same way in your life. So become stable, become a person who makes strong decisions and wise decisions, then you're going to attract that. Godly decision. And you're going to attract those same people in your life.
So starting over, because there's so many options out there, that's the game of the devil in a lot of ways, to confuse godly people, right? So make sure you don't fall for that. Understand the game. The game is, let's get people super distracted and unable to make decisions about their life. Let's give them 44,000 different versions of Christianity.
Right.
Let's give them, 10. Let's give them 5 major religions in the world to choose from. Which one are we going to be? Are we going to be Hindus? Are we going to be Muslims? Are we going to be Christians? Are we going to be this? This is why people don't connect with God, because there's too many choices. I remember the first, when I was younger, I remember the first kind of quest going after, like, because we live in America, you're going to always think of Christianity first, but not everywhere in the world has that option. And in many places of the world, they are born cultural Muslims, or they're born cultural Hindus, or they're born cultural something else. And so because you're born into that, but every human knows, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're born in a Hindu country. I don't care if you're born in a Muslim country. I don't care where you're born. You always think, is our religion the right one?
Right.
You go with it because it's culture, but you always have this thought, is our religion the right one? And so the options keep you from making a strong decision, right? You don't even know if that's the right thing. So you have to make sure that, one, you want to hear from the one and only true God. I mean, you don't want to make a decision so strong that you're in the wrong place.
Right.
Right. So these options are designed to confuse you and keep you from making a good decision, or keeping you from making any decision. So you go, I don't know if it's true. It's all a conspiracy. We're not doing it. Right. And so this leads us to kind of to the final place, right? When it's time to make these huge moves in your life, when it's time to ground yourself, when it's time to live that life beyond your familiar past and beyond what you're used to, and maybe experience something that you didn't know you could experience, break into this new world, right? You're going to need a church. And church is not what people have taught you that it was. And there's a reason why you're not rooted in a church. You probably have 1,000 reasons. Maybe you joined a church and it ended up being a weird place where you got hurt, or maybe you went to a church and they mishandled you, or maybe you went to a church and it was just you. Maybe you were the problem. It's not even the church. And you say, well, I was not ready at the time to do that or whatever. But whatever the case is, regardless, if you are going to walk with God, God does everything he's going to do in the earth through his church. Because the reason why is because in the church is where God breaks away all of that old stuff. It's where he strengthens you, reprograms you to be able to function compatible with him. He takes you out of all that weighty, heavy, guilty, condemned, programming that the world, these limited programming, and he is going to launch you into a place where you can believe for the things and connect with the things and produce the fruit that you are capable of producing. You are absolutely capable. Yes. But without that spiritual community and spiritual authority. So a church is extremely important. And we are doing this podcast to let you know that it is time to go to church. It is time to get in a good church. It is time to find the right church, because not for the sake of the church, but for the sake of your potential. And it is a match made in heaven. You are designed to be a part of a spiritual nation, not the worldly nations. You are designed not to worry about what they're doing. You are designed to impact what they're doing. All right, this is the way it's made. It's not a religious request. It is not us just trying to, help you modify your behavior. No, it is about connecting you to the greater potential of a king that you need to know and live a life that maybe you did not know you could live, whether it's an emotional thing, whether it's a financial thing, or all of the above, connecting to something greater than yourself. That's what church is, because church is greater than all of us. Yes, it is the body of a king. It is the body of Christ. It is an organized organization of spiritual authorities and leaders all coming together. That's all the people, an assembly of those people, fully recovering their potential, fully recovering their life, fully recovering their, identities, and living that in an influential way in the world. And we have to come together to do it.
For sure. For sure. I know for myself, my life was a mess before I came to church. And when I came to church, not only did I find this amazing God who is for me and wants greater things for me, I found myself.
And you found me.
Yes, I found him
in church.
But I found me, and I found a community of people who could love me and who could help me and who were there for me. And that's why the church is so important. And that's why I'm always advocating for the church. And that's why you have to come to the church.
So anyway, we're going to have a new podcast episode for the next several weeks, every week. And so I hope this has helped you. And just understand something. Until you try this, what we're saying, until you try something new, until you trust God with this, part of your life, until you do it, until you try it, it's not going to ever happen. You can't get trapped in all these different things that we have just talked about today, whether it's a familiar holding you back, whether it's the hardships of change, or whether it's the multiple options, you don't know what's right or wrong, whatever it is, you still have to overcome all of those different things. You still have to, because your destiny and your potential is worth it, and you are worth it. Knowing who you are, finding out that great potential is worth it. You have to try things. You have to have the strength to move on, and God's already put that in you.
So again, despite how you feel, despite what others think of it, you need to treat yourself to something new. You need to treat yourself to being around people who can help you. You need to treat yourself to learning something new, of not only about God, but yourself. So go for it. Do it. We're here to encourage you. I hope this podcast encourages you that there is greatness inside of you, and it's time for you to discover it in 2024.
We'll see you next week for the Ready to Excel podcast. Have an amazing day.